The NBA has always been a league of dynasties, from early Bill Russell Celtics days,
in the lane,
or the Showtime Lakers,
and the most valuable player is Magic Johnson.
MJ's Bulls,
compete to win. That's all I live for.
The Shaq and Kobe era,
Bryant to Shaq.
the Spurs, the Warriors, and of course others unmentioned. However, the times of successive rule may be ending. Last year, the Boston Celtics became the 6th different champion in the last 6 seasons, marking only the second time this has occurred in league history. If a team that hasn't won since 2019 clinches the championship this season, the NBA will enter uncharted territory. While unusual, this could signal the beginning of a new normal, with the NBA entering a great era of parity. For decades, the league thrived on its stars and dynasties achieving tremendous success. Now, it's forging a new path, adapting to a changing media landscape that calls for widespread competition rather than just a few dominant teams. The changes, both self-imposed by CBA rules and driven by a dynamic media landscape, have moved the NBA closer to an NFL-like model. Now, when Commissioner Adam Silver addresses the public, he can highlight how many teams remain in postseason contention even late into the season. The latest CBA was designed to create a more level playing field, and the Superteam era may officially be over. The play-in tournament provides more postseason opportunity for more teams, and over the past 2 decades, the NBA has learned it can develop superstars in small markets, and a shifting media environment may encourage teams to retain them. Looking ahead, each team might need a star to not only strengthen its roster, but also to boost viewership and sell digital content subscriptions, including game streaming. For example, Victor Wembanyama will be invaluable in San Antonio for more than just his unprecedented basketball talent, but for the eyes he will bring to the franchise. It's really an intriguing shift. The NBA has traditionally marked stars and rivalries, thriving on its dynastic franchises. These teams have propelled the league forward, crafting narratives that captivate even casual fans. The George Mikan Minneapolis Lakers of the 1950s transitioned to the Bill Russell Boston Celtics of the 60s. The Celtics and Lakers dominated the 1980s. Michael Jordan reigned in the 90s. Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, LeBron and Stephen Curry each had their eras. The league has decided to move away from its traditional model while aiming to create diverse opportunities rather than specific outcomes. Now, maybe the most pressing concern of the modern NBA is the second apron, a measure introduced in the 2023 CBA. Similar to how the three-point revolution dominated the last decade, the second apron could define the next era of NBA basketball. Set just over $188 million this season, about $18 million over the luxury tax threshold, the second apron includes severe penalties for exceeding it, such as frozen first-round picks and steep luxury tax rates. It was designed to control rising payrolls and promote economic fairness. While the NBA previously had several tools to manage revenue discrepancies, this new measure could effectively limit spending. Some agents and executives view it as a de facto hard cap, a limit the National Basketball Players Association has long opposed. But the NBA has experienced only 1 full season and 2 off seasons under the new CBA, so its impact is still unproven. The harshest measures and most punishing tax rates have yet to be fully implemented. The expectation is that it will restrict super teams and could potentially dismantle franchises like the Celtics, who succeeded through smart drafting and strategic additions but now face the challenge of paying all their players. Teams will have to be honest with themselves about who is truly worth paying. The second apron era has so far seen teams continuing to strengthen their rosters. Few teams have downsized as of yet. Interestingly, the Clippers blamed the CBA after losing Paul George, but they still offered him a substantial 3-year, $150 million contract. The Denver Nuggets lost Kentavious Caldwell-Pope while navigating the second apron, although they've traditionally been reluctant to pay the luxury tax. But at the same time, they did extend Murray and Gordon. The Minnesota Timberwolves traded Karl Anthony Towns to the New York Knicks, providing them with significant financial flexibility in the future. Meanwhile, other teams like the Phoenix Suns went all in last summer, extending their contracts also. The Boston Celtics are projected to maintain $200 million payrolls in the coming years, bringing back a team that was more dominant last season than recognized. The Oklahoma City Thunder are set for sustained success with homegrown stars on rookie contracts, one star on a max deal, and a wealth of future draft picks providing flexibility. Even under the old CBA, Superteam struggled with adding the right supporting players. Choosing poorly could ruin a season, and now that challenge is even greater. However, executives also believe that while sustained success may be difficult, turnaround cycles could be faster. There's a real belief around the league that no team is so far ahead of the rest that they can't be caught. Equally important is the NBA's evolving media landscape. The new media rights deal, valued at about $75 billion over 11 years, will broadcast more games nationally, again leaning more towards the NFL model. Gradually, many teams are transitioning from cable and traditional TV to subscription and streaming apps. Franchises once relied on lucrative RSN deals, which now seem to be fading for most. Teams will need to attract viewers to their apps, and nothing draws an audience like winning does. But still, this change has even broader implications. With more national game slots to fill, the NBA increased the number of games exclusive to national broadcasts from 12 to 15 per team. Franchises that lost lucrative local rights are now more dependent on national deal revenues. The NBA is also competing for viewership on social media and platforms like YouTube. With more games broadcast nationally, soon on platforms like Peacock, Amazon Prime, and ESPN's app, media partners seem to favor having more competitive teams across the board, not just a few strong ones on each coast. The NBA has gradually been moving towards this moment. From 1975 to 2000, only one NBA Finals featured teams outside the top 12 media markets. Since 2001, there have been 6. As top talent spreads across the country, the origin of award winners diversified as well. From 1979 to 2001, only 3 NBA MVPs came from outside the top 11 media markets. From 2002 to 2024, there were 14 of them. The player empowerment movement has also driven parity, disrupting super teams. LeBron James left Miami and Cleveland after significant success. Kevin Durant departed from Golden State with 2 championships. James Harden left Brooklyn after forming a super team, and Kawhi Leonard moved from the championship-winning Raptors to Los Angeles. The league remains almost supportive for stars seeking to leave their teams. For some players, winning isn't the only priority. The decisions of elite talent might impact dynasties as much as any CBA rules. Players, alongside commissioners and owners, play a crucial role in shaping the NBA's future and the duration of its current era. Now, every era in the NBA requires sacrifices. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh sacrificed salary for success until they chose not to. The Warriors accepted high payrolls until their winning streak declined. This new phase will require teams to make different, tough choices. Ultimately, everything lasts until it doesn't. The truth of today's NBA is summed up in one word: parity. Now, determining if there's parity in the NBA depends on how you define parity. On one hand, it might seem absurd to claim parity when the Celtics just dominated the league. They achieved the 3rd highest scoring margin in the past 50 years, winning 80 out of 101 games and securing the championship. However, by several metrics, we've seen parity over the last 5 years. This is especially true regarding so-called dynasties, where no single team dominates the league each year. In the mid-2010s, the Warriors and Cavs faced each other in 4 consecutive NBA Finals. Since then, the league has approached a high level of playoff parity. In that time, there have been 6 different champions and 9 different finalists, with another 5 teams reaching the conference finals. Nearly half the league has experienced late May basketball in just over 5 years. While 14 teams have reached the conference finals at least once, only Boston and Miami have made it more than twice. Most franchises have experienced significant fluctuations except Detroit. For instance, the Warriors went from the 2019 finals to being the worst team in the next season, followed by a championship and a second-round playoff run, with 2 lottery trips in between. literally championship or bust. The Miami Heat have a unique journey, playing in 4 play-in games and only securing a top 4 seed once, yet reaching 2 NBA Finals and winning 8 Eastern playoff series. Similarly, the Atlanta Hawks and Minnesota Timberwolves both made a conference finals and won the draft lottery in the same period. The Dallas Mavericks reached both the conference finals and the NBA finals within 3 years, despite missing the play-in in between. Regular season dominance has also seen more balance. Before Boston's 2024 championship, 6 straight champions did not surpass 60 regular season wins, with some not even coming close. The Celtics' predecessors, Denver in 2023, Golden State in 2022, and Milwaukee in 2021, had between 52 and 53 wins, reflecting a trend towards more evenly matched teams. This has coincided with a large group of middle-of-the-pack teams, winning between 40 and 52 games. Last season, 17 of the league's 30 teams fell into this range, and the year before it was 16. This all contributes to this idea of parity, creating a sense that most teams have a fighting chance, again more like the NFL. Playoff parity has also become more apparent. While historically the NBA has favored top seeds in the postseason, with 44 of the past 45 champions being seeded 3rd or better, recent seasons have shown a more competitive landscape, suggesting any team could potentially make a run. In recent postseasons, the second round has seen unexpected outcomes. In the past 6 years, the post-Cavs Warriors era, teams without home court advantage have won 14 of 24 second round series, including notable upsets like Dallas over Phoenix in 2022 and Miami over Milwaukee in 2020. This highlights a broader unpredictability in the playoffs. The last 5 years have featured a number 8 seed and 2 number 5 seeds reaching the finals, along with 2 number 7 seeds and another number 5 seed making the conference finals. Last spring's Dallas-Minnesota West Finals marked the 4th time in 5 years that neither of the conference's top 2 seeds advanced past the second round. But at the same time, the league's bottom teams are experiencing a different type of parity. Recently, the 2023-24 Pistons set a record with 28 consecutive losses, and both the Pistons and Wizards had worse records than any team since the 2015-16 Sixers. The Trailblazers, Hornets, and Spurs also joined the 60-loss club, and 7 teams lost at least 55 games. This explains the crowded middle-of-the-pack section of the league. Overall, we see constantly changing champions, less in-season dominance, more playoff unpredictability, a balanced middle, and a struggling bottom quarter. Most, if not all of these aspects support the existence of genuine parity in today's NBA. Now, there's a tendency to blame the new collective bargaining agreement for everything, and it might play a role in sustaining parity. However, we've only had 1 season under these rules, and with Boston's dominant title run, it arguably showed the least parity of the past 5 years, and 2024 opening week showed that the Celtics might continue this.
He's shooting.
Looking back at the mid to late 1970s, the greatest era of parity occurred when top players like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar lacked support, Bill Walton was often injured, or stars like Julius Erving played in another league. Once multiple stars joined the Celtics, Lakers, and Sixers, parity vanished in the 80s. A similar case can be made today. Teams like Toronto, Denver, Golden State, and Milwaukee had 1 superstar. Boston has multiple superstars, but arguably no top 5 player. Debate that in the comments if you'd like. Of the recent champions, only the 2020 Lakers fit the model of a champion with 2 elite stars. But since then, they've struggled with roster depth similar to Kareem's 1970s teams. Another factor is that super teams failed. It wasn't that they couldn't be built, but they did not succeed. The Lakers were of course the exception. The Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant came close but faltered. The LA Clippers had 1 healthy postseason but then collapsed. Durant Durant left a super team in Golden State, and Kyrie did similarly in Boston. In the 2023-24 season, star talent was so distributed that the 10 players on the All-NBA first and second teams came from 10 different franchises, a stark contrast to the dynastic cores of the Heat and Warriors of the previous decade. Now, the real question is, how long will this parity last? This is, of course, where the CBA plays a crucial role. Let's take a step back and discuss the CBA, starting with this. Every CBA isn't just an agreement from owners to players. It also sets the rules for all 30 owners. In the 2023 negotiations, small market owners secured significant concessions. Stricter rules were imposed on the highest spending owners to reduce the financial advantage held by teams like the Clippers and Warriors over their lower spending counterparts. We've already discussed how the second apron supports leveling the playing field, but equally important, though less discussed, is the much stricter repeater penalty for teams that exceed the tax 3 times in 4 years. This can impose a heavy financial burden even before the second apron penalty applies. For instance, Boston faces a hefty tax bill in the 2025-26 season if they don't significantly reduce salaries, which encourages the Celtics to cut payroll even before any second apron penalty takes effect the following year. Ironically, this might lead to less parity in the short term. If only a few teams can assemble elite rosters under the new CBA constraints, while others only reach pretty good levels despite having MVP caliber talent, the NBA might end up with a situation similar to the current season repeated. Boston and Oklahoma City have expertly crafted rosters that comply with the new rules due to unique circumstances. Boston managed to make key trades for Kristaps Porzingis and Jrue Holiday just before the new CBA took effect, and the OKC Thunder benefit from having top-tier talent on favorable rookie contracts. Other teams seem forced to choose between being too top-heavy or lacking stars, but even the Celtics and Thunder will face limitations on their desire to build a dynasty due to apron and repeater rules. Under this new CBA, most teams will likely aim for 2-year contention windows before retreating below the second apron to prepare for another attempt. It seems like the league views this as a positive. The goal is for teams to make challenging roster decisions, reducing the prevalence of top-heavy teams with 3 superstars, and promoting competitive balance. This appears to be happening. There's a packed middle tier of good teams and frequent championship turnover. In any given season, parity might seem more elusive. The framework can't prevent teams like last year's Pistons from struggling. More importantly for fans, it can't stop a team like Boston from dominating for 2 years, or an emerging team like the Thunder from potentially distancing itself from the rest of the West in the 2024-25 season. So here we are. Call it the Parity Era, the CBA era, or whatever you like. We're still discovering the full impacts and consequences, both intended and unintended, of the new CBA. But to be clear, this era is quite unique and has the potential for the most competitive league ever. Thanks for watching Sports Pantheon.